And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, August 4th, 2019. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with beneath me is Mr. Chris Bennett.
Hey, Steve.
Hello, Chris.
You doing all right, bud?
I am doing wonderful. How's yourself?
Well, it's been an exciting week. Miserable, too. I had to make a 3.5-hour trip to Indianapolis earlier this week. It usually takes, 3.5 hours. Only 2 days. I've been recovering from that the rest of the week. But we had some that happened in Kentucky, and I'll just tell you about that. So,
Yeah.
The news.
Weather has been kind of really nice, actually, the last few days. So I'm not complaining about that. Humidity's been low. Temperature's been up, but not blistering, and it's been a beautiful summer weekend here in New York. So enjoying it. A little bit of rain here and there. Earlier in the week, we had some really pretty hellacious storms causing a lot of damage. But it's been fairly well, and of course, we want to send our condolences out to all those folks out there in El Paso, Texas. That was just horrible what happened. And I guess there was another shooting in Ohio as well. So again, our prayers and blessings to those folks. And maybe someday we can figure all this out, and so this won't happen again. But again, our prayers. So, obviously, you see, we've done a few things. And of course, let's say hello to our friends here. Hello, Aaron. How are you? Carol, hello. How are you doing? And hey, Mr. Reading, and he says that Chris has echo and distant sounds. Really, not much we can do about it. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. If you might have to scooch a little bit and talk a little bit closer to the computer. Mike's he's having a little problem with his headset, so we'll get that ironed out real shortly. And
I turned my volume down a little bit. Maybe that'll help with the echo part, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it did. So here we are, Squatch-D TV for today's date. And man, it is so good to be back. And I think we've gotten a lot of these things figured out. One of the things we want to do tonight is we want to do the news. We're actually starting to do a news weekly news. So here is our news report for tonight. And before I do that, let me just click over here. Here's our news. In the news today, we have shot fired at Mammoth National Cave in Kentucky as a man claims he saw Bigfoot, claims it also ravaged his camp. Chris Bennett, this is in your neck of the woods. Say hello to the shots fired Sasquatch. And now we're off to Jeff Patterson, a.k.a. the Squatchmaster. Jeff first came on the scene when he released a video of a Bigfoot allegedly shaking a tree, which Ohio researcher Tim Stover exposed to be none other than, most likely, Jeff Patterson's own son. This video stirred a little bit of controversy just for a little time, but it's so bad, even the folks at Finding Bigfoot couldn't even buy it.
We have the original. Your video here is on the left, and the recreation we did today with Bobo Matt that you shot is here on the right.
Bobo, you look bigger than that figure.
There really are a lot of possibilities that could explain what they're doing.
When I first saw this, I was excited too. But later on, the team and I agreed this is probably a hoax, and we don't like hoaxers at all.
Yes, this isn't the first time we've run into Mr. Patterson. A couple of years back, the Squatch Detective, yours truly, took on Mr. Patterson in the Squatchmaster when he issued this really crappy series of audio claiming to be Bigfoot.
I had found a dead Bigfoot. I didn't want to see him pick apart his body. I have too much respect for them. Well, I said at the time that I had buried the body where it fell. That's all the farther it's going to go. I'm not going to have them, not going to have anybody dig it up and desecrate the body. I'm going to give you a little tiny glimpse. And that's all I'm ever going to show. Like I said, I have too much respect for them. May this one rest in peace.
You will rest in peace.
That's right. He couldn't even afford a real Bigfoot body. Kinda cheesy, and you jumped the shark. By the way, looks like Rick Dyer used the Face app, and coincidentally, look who it turned out to look like.
What you gonna do, brother?
And there we have it. So that's the news. And I know, Chris, there's a lot you want to talk about the Mammoth Cave. And we'll slide that over here so everybody can see. It's an article that occurred. So go ahead, Chris. It's your show here.
Well,
No.
Unfortunately, I can't do boots on the ground investigation now, but I have done a lot over the phone, and I've spoken with a lot of people, and it's kind of interesting to point out that, you know, and not everybody knows this, that it's legal, perfectly legal, to carry a firearm in a national park, and that's perfectly fine now. But it is illegal to discharge one. So, you know, ordinarily, if you were to go over to a national park and start shooting off your firearm, you're going to be arrested because you're breaking the law. But in this case, this guy was, after investigation of it, this guy was not arrested. And that seems kind of odd to me. That's one thing that I was looking into. And I've spoken with the official representatives at Mammoth Cave National Park, and they put me off and over to a Miss Molly Schroer, I think is her name, and she's supposed to be returning my call, but I think she's just like a press spokesperson, so she's going to say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong here." But oh, you lose your Steve?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, bud.
I'm fine.
So, there was a couple things that have happened since this. The cave area, the Mammoth Cave National Park website has put up a notice that the Green River Ferry area is closed August 5th through November 15th of 2019. So starting tomorrow, they've closed the ferry down in that area. It says they're going to do some projects to help traffic move through the area and stuff. Well, okay. But it seems that it's kind of odd that this will happen after this sighting. Another thing, they put up a caution alert for the kayakers that usually use Green River and the Nolin River area. And it says that no floodplain camping on Nolin River or below Turnhole Bend, River Mile 193 on Green River. And that's also kind of coincidental because that seems to be about the area where these alleged the alleged sighting and shooting has occurred. So, you know, there's still, the investigation's not over with. They're still investigating something. And, you know, if it was just a simple case of the man fired his gun, a couple other campers reported it, seemed like to me the investigation would be over. The park rangers have already talked with all parties involved. And that should have closed the investigation right there. But there's still an ongoing investigation. And hopefully I'll get some more news about that in a day or two. But you know, if I can't get anything through the public relations, I'll get something through the employees for sure within a week's time. Somebody's going to be calling old Chris and spilling the beans.
Awesome. So this is not done by any means as far as we're. So Mr. Bennett is on the case down in Kentucky. So that is awesome stuff. Now, Chris, let's talk about since we have time, and our guest tonight is going to be returning to our show. And before I get into that, I just want to say hi to Dean and thank you, Bigfoot Busters. Of course, hi Sherry, how are you? And Dave, how are you, my brother? And I didn't get a chance really to get that, but one of the I want you to talk about your experiences in that particular area, because I've been out. I've had the privilege of being out to Mammoth National Cave. I was back there, I think, in 2006. So yeah, there is a good proportion of sightings out in that area. And as the article reads, you know, and I'm looking at it, they were wakened around 11 p.m. when she heard noises outside their tent. She assumed other campers were being rowdy and drinking. She woke Jen after a flashlight shined into the tent. We got out of the tent and saw a man who told us their campsite had been destroyed by someone or something. The man who was with his young son showed him his gun on his hip and told him the area was popular for Bigfoot sightings. Duran recalled. The couple climbed back into their tent as the man walked away to investigate with his son in tow. We heard them coming back about 10 minutes later. We heard them yelling, "I see it." And we saw the flash from his gun and the shot maybe 20 yards from the side of our tent into the pitch black darkness. Duran says he was scared that gunfire could have struck them. The man with the firearm seemed frightened too. He told the couple his hands were shaking, they recalled. The guy said he saw a Bigfoot emerge from the brush and it was coming towards him, so he shot at it. We shined a flashlight to see if there was an animal or something there, and there was absolutely nothing there. Well, I would assume, you know, any kind of animal, after shining a flashlight at him and taking a shot, is not going to stick around necessarily. Right. Once the adrenaline wore off, the couple made jokes about their strange night during their 5-mile hike back to their car in the darkness. We were pretty shocked by how much it's blown up. And the legendary Bigfoot is commonly associated with the Pacific Northwest, but sightings have been reported all over the country and celebrated. Marion, North Carolina, near the Blue Ridge Mountains, you know, Marlin's mayor proclaimed Bigfoot the city's official animal during the inaugural Bigfoot Festival last September. There's another place to put it on the map. So, and then it goes into the federal records thing that really did a disservice. And as Jeff Meldrum said, that, you know, Meldrum actually criticized a bit of that hair sample going in because, you know, you didn't need to DNA test an ungulate hair. I mean, it's very apparent that, you know, if somebody knew hair, or somebody, even hunters for crying out loud, can put that thing, look at that thing and tell you what it is normally, or you can put it under a microscope and see that it belongs to an ungulate, not a primate. So right. Why it ever went that far, unless somebody was just trying to get a headline, yuck, yuck, yuck.
Well, so this area, Steve, you know, we've never talked about this before in public.
Right.
But since this has come to light, there's no reason to hold it back now.
Right, and it's been a number of years too. So,
right. Back in 2010, I had a sighting within 1 mile of where this incident occurred in Mammoth Cave National Park. Now, there's some, you know, normally I'm up and down, or was up and down the Green River area. Green River runs through the top side of Mammoth Cave National Park. and it's right up there where these people had their encounter, where the guy had his encounter and took a shot. Normally, I didn't want to advertise to be looking for them over there because, you know, if they do tend to go over there and stay in the area for a little while before they move along, if people's over there tromping around, it will tend to make them leave. And especially if they're over there taking shots at them. I don't really, you know, please, people, please do not shoot at the big monkey man in Kentucky, please. It's okay to visit the park, but if you see the big hairy monkey man, don't shoot at him. He's not going to hurt you. I have full belief that if they intended harm, I would have been dead years ago.
Yep. Now, Chris, I'm wondering, you shot a video a bunch of years back.
Yeah.
And I have that. I haven't enhanced it yet, but what I want to do is I want to show people the video, and we'll revisit it with the enhanced version. And mind you, folks, that this is a copy of a copy. It's a little bit degraded.
Yeah. And at that time, Steve, this is when I first started going out in the field, and my field equipment was a little small jazzy camcorder that cost like $30 back in 2008 or 2009. And so the quality was so terrible. This is why we've never really had this on the show and discussed it. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's all right, so here is the raw footage from the hillside. Bigfoot again. Don't expect a lot, folks, but we're going to be analyzing this and probably sharpening it up in a little bit. Here it is, and there was actually in the cleaned up version you can actually denote some movement in that. And we'll replay that a couple of times just so people can see it. And Chris, you did see it with your naked eye.
Yes. I could see there was more than one individual there. And I've had this, well, the cleaned up version on a big screen TV, and it shows a lot of movement.
Yeah, and I've seen that version myself. And due to computer crashes, Chris and I kind of lost the originals, which is a bad thing, but we'll play it again. So, Chris, can you tell me a little bit about this encounter?
Well, yeah, this one, let's see, I was with Scott, our buddy Scott and his son, and because we were with, had Scott's son with us, we kind of stayed into an area that was within 3 miles of the highway, and or you know the main road where we had to park. Okay, so this area here is right at 3 miles from the nearest highway, but it's within 1 mile of the river, and that did happen over in Mammoth Cave National Park. But now that was the only time in that area where I had got a sighting there at that spot. I did go back several times there, and I never got another sighting in that spot. So you know.
Now, how far was that from the alleged shooting?
Well, it is exactly, well, it's just across the river. They were camped on the other side of the river. And where they were at, it was less than 1 mile. So.
Gotcha. So very close. Yeah. Now, in reading the report, could it be somebody, and you see, this is the way I'm reading it, is that it's either the guy really believed he saw a Sasquatch or he's playing a prank.
Right.
And to bring a small child, because the guy had his son with him,
right,
out to do that sounds kind of far-fetched to me.
Yeah, I don't think it was a prank. I think he may have actually seen something. It's very possible that they're in the area. They seem to stick close to the river. And of course, it's a national park. There's millions of visitors every year, but they're going over and they're visiting the cave. They're not going out to the remote camping areas where you have to walk 3 to 5 miles, okay, from your car. The average person does not do that. But this area here, you know, was 3 miles from the highway, and it's not a very easy place to get to. And matter of fact, I can't do it now. I could not get to that place now because of, you know, the health issues.
Good evening, John.
Hey, John. But this was it was an interesting sighting, and luckily, you know, it was a multiple witness thing. And this was the first time I was hit with what we've been talking about is infrasound. And Scott's son, Tommy, was looking at me, and I was looking at him at the same time. We both swatted our ears, okay? He swatted his right ear because his right ear was facing the direction of where the creatures were sitting. I swatted my left ear because my left ear was facing the direction. We were looking at each other. And at that time, I knew it was not a bug or it was a fluttering in the ear. And I knew it was coming from that direction. So I looked over, and sure enough, up on the hill, there they were.
And we've talked about that flutter before. You know, and like I said, at first I was a little skeptical of it, that it may have been infrasound, but it wasn't until probably about, maybe 5 years after we had talked about that when I had encountered something similar. And the bizarre thing about that was those feelings of unease I was having at the time, and I was not alone myself, and we were both feeling, you know, like this is really a really awkward type of area. You know, you felt off balance. You felt, you felt creeped out,
Right.
and all of a sudden I felt like something was almost fluttering in my ear, like you had said, and I was like, I'll be damned. And you know, I didn't stick around there very long. I mean, that's how bad it was. It just felt like something very bad was around, and that could just be infrasound, getting hit by infrasound. Of course, we know studies in the early 70s in the United Kingdom, they had done that in movie theaters. And even people say that the first movie, Paranormal Activity, that they added some infrasound into the movie itself to get those people to feel even more creeped out.
Right.
So,
But
you know,
it was an interesting encounter. I mean, Scott was looking at it, and I was looking at it, and I had my little jazzy camcorder zoomed in to the max, man. But you know, we were, I don't know, it's probably 120 feet or something like that away, and so it's at its max. There's a better video than this. That's really blobby.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why I never released it. But,
right. Well, we'll see what we can do to clean that up and to kind of, as you can even see that, you know, I'm able to take this a little bit frame by frame where you can start seeing a little thing clearly. But the funny thing is, in the original, you see this, especially right in here. If I recall, there was like a movement right in there that was going on at the time. So, but you guys had seen that with your eyes, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys were very creeped out, and you know, which is very, and we did see a little bit of head movement going on, and it just kind of it was off in the distance, so it really wasn't paying much attention to you guys.
After studying this in great detail, of course, the cleared up version, I was able to make out multiple creatures. That was a group, and there was a small one at the lower left that was really interesting. Something on the order of like an infant size or a 3-year-old child size deal. You can see it coming out and raising its head up on the lower left. But you know, it takes a lot of work and a lot of you got to get into the details.
Yep.
But when we had that sighting, of course, we had Tommy with us, and I was armed. You know, I typically go in armed, but I'm not because I'm afraid of these creatures. You know, but you never know what a wild animal will do. Well, after we had that sighting, you know, I was ready to go. So let's go. You know, let's go. Let's just kind of ease out, and because we had our sighting, you know, I didn't want to run towards them. Didn't want to do anything that would provoke a response. because, you know, what's that response going to be? You don't know. I didn't know. They could have been welcoming. They could have got up and walked away, or they could have pulled up a tree and smacked me with it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we got out of there, and I did go back the next day, which is pretty interesting. The area where these creatures were at had been looked like it was tilled up, like it was the earth had been loosened up, like they'd been digging in it for some reason, and it was places that were mashed down, compacted, and there was a lot of small flying insects around, buzzing around that area. And had I thought at the time, well, had I known there was going to be a thing called eDNA, environmental DNA, available now, I would have probably took a sample of the dirt from that area and kept it for future use. But if we could go back in time, if I knew then what I know now, you know, things would have been a little different.
Yeah, exactly. But the important thing is you did go back and you did check, and that black mass was not there. That's very important. Also, hey, look who popped in. It's Suzanne Ferenchak. She was a guest of ours over at the radio show, featured in a great documentary called The Back 80. And hello, Suzanne. How are you? And I hope your husband Bernie's doing okay. But yeah, I can't stress the importance to people of going back to sighting reports. Just as a little programming note, we were scheduled to have on tonight DDoS. I did ask him to come on about quarter after the hour. It's now 9:30, and we haven't seen him. He did get kind of tied up at work, I think. So I don't know if he's going to end up making it. And good evening, Ed. How are you, sir? And you know, so we will just press on because we have a lot of stuff. But I mean, anything else you want to add about what's been going on in Kentucky? I mean, anything recent? Anything?
Well, up until this incident, there's nothing been going on lately. This is I'm raising an eyebrow at this incident as being genuine because the area where it happened, and because I know that is an area where these creatures have been before,
Right.
And it seems the reason that they would be there again.
Yep.
Actually, this also happened just across the river, and that's an area where I like to go. And we haven't really talked about this either, but I'm going to go ahead and get it out because that's one of my personal things that I love to do. Is go along with the rivers, because it seems to me they travel the bodies of water, and find places in the rivers where they have an island in the center. And I've noticed that's a really good spot to find tracks of crossings, because it's my opinion, and I'm not an expert, but this is just what I believe. I don't think they like deep water, and if they can walk out crossing a river waist deep or knee deep, depending on how tall they are, then walk across an island which is dry in the center, and then walk across another 3 feet deep, section of water to get to the bank side. I think they would rather do that rather than ford a river, across the open river, open stream.
Hey, I want to throw a quick hello out to Kate McClure. She's a member of our paranormal team, the Extreme Encounter Paranormal, the Extreme Paranormal Encounter Response Team. She's one of our team members there. And hello to Justin Butler as well. Hello, Justin. So it's good to see all you guys popping on over. This is what I love about this format of show. We can sit here and have a discussion about different things and have some fun at the same time. And, if people want to go out and look for these things, and this is one of the problems I have with good old Stop the Lunacy, is we have so many people, every day putting out blob squatch pictures.
Right.
Now, yeah, yours was not the clearest
Oh no.
video,
Yeah.
but you have something to back it up. You have a actual multi-person sighting where y'all saw it moving around a bit,
Right.
and you decided to get out of there because I remember. I remember a point in time you saying that there was some concern about the safety of the young man there, and that's very true. I mean, you have a child or you have a son, yeah, you want to protect that son.
Right.
And hello to Paul.
Hi, Paul.
So you want to you wanted to get out of there. I understand that completely. Remember, folks, that a video, a picture, even an audio is only as good as the story behind it. I preach that. That is the word according to, the gospel according to the Squatch Detective. A picture, a video, an audio is only as good as the story behind it. That's the easiest way to see if something is bullshit or the real thing.
Right.
Number one, how many times do we see YouTube videos where we're getting an 8-second clip and nothing there? Oh, I was in this place and look what I got. And that's all you get. Not, okay, well, there was 3 of us and this is what we felt. And Paul, what's my thoughts on FLIR footage? Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because I actually have something kind of cued. Depending if you have the right actual equipment, I'll give you a quick video. One of my tech guys on my team is Mike Ann, and we see him occasionally pop in here. And he's Tactical Bigfoot Research. You'll see him. And let me pop this video up. And this is kind of cool, too, if I can find it on my list here. Boom, 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 boom. No. There it is. So take a look at this video. This is what a good, this is actually night vision. This is what good night vision will do. Yep, what'd you see over there? So, night vision, I think, is a lot better. It's more defined than FLIR. And sorry about that. That's kind of making me a little bit woozy.
Yeah, I'm getting busy.
But you'll see it stabilize itself a little bit. There we go.
Yeah.
And there we are. Look what's there. So this is a good example of a good night vision scope. And there's good ones and bad ones. You notice it's not green. It's not any,
Sometimes that dude would be sitting that close to the ground,
he's sitting on a log. He's just chilling.
Yeah.
And there he is taking a look. Let's go back here. See him. There he is.
There he is.
Watch. Here we go. Whoop. How you doing? So, and over on the YouTube channel, hello to B. How are you? And so it's good to see that folks are. And B says hello to Bigfoot Busters. But so that's one particular video. Let me see if I can't pull up another video real quick of some FLIR stuff. Oh, hang on. I know where that is. Hang on. So give us 1 second here, and we'll get some FLIR footage. And here's what good FLIR footage will show you. Now, when you have a good device, as opposed to what I had in the past, that, I mean, how more clear can you get than that?
Good.
That's me lugging in some gear. This one, I'm not sure what this one is. Here's another FLIR video. But this is what good FLIR will do for you. Obviously, I don't know if there's any animal on this particular video or not. Oh yeah, this is the here. This is now a lot of times when people are in the woods, you will hear these little skitterings and movement about,
Right.
and what we hear. So we hear something, and this is how important FLIR can be. So. So, yep, B, we are on, let me pause this for a second, just so folks can know, because we really, now, I'm going to rewind that a second, just so folks can know, we're on Facebook.com/Steve.Kulls, we're on YouTube.com/Steve Kulls, and we're also at Twitter.com/Squatch-DET, Squatch-Det. It's so just so everybody knows. The cool thing about this platform, folks, is you don't have to. If you have accounts of these places, all you have to do is just watch and comment, and the comments actually come to me on my board. I'm not looking at multiple screens. The only place I do have a problem with is Twitter, and I haven't refreshed Twitter in a bit, so I don't know if there's any comments coming on the Twitter feed. So we're doing that right now. Oops. So nothing on Twitter yet, but so this is a great platform, and we do rebroadcast this when it's done. I share it over to the Squatch-D TV fan page as well as my own fan page because I'm always teetering right around 5,000 friends on Facebook. So I created an overflow page. And B says hello.
Hi, B.
And Ron says, and good old Ron Bull says, don't be a twit. Well, sorry, but I got a pretty good following on Twitter as well. So it's really important to throw that out there. So hello to anybody that's watching on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. It's really good to yep, and of course B's like, I wonder where everybody was. That's why. Yep, absolutely, Paul. So anyway, so you hear this skittering around the woods, and a FLIR kind of takes the mystery away right here, and you'll see in a second. See what's going on?
Yeah.
Field mice.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool video to have. You can kind of see what's going on, and you hear something, you throw that out there, and no, it's not Bigfoot. It's a couple of mice just creating a little.
There you go.
Pretty clear. There they are. So that's what good equipment does. So anytime we get in the field, we love deploying some of that good equipment, provided the GoPro camera isn't, working or not. Yeah. But while we're on the subject of, as I was saying earlier about folks not necessarily taking pictures of these blob squatches, and they never show any follow-up. They never really have any story except, I was out there and I saw the squatches and we were talking to them, and we'll get more into that. I don't think we're going to have Dion tonight because we're already almost 45 minutes into the show, so I don't think he's going to be able to make it tonight. But if he comes on, he comes on. If not, so be it.
The important thing is to go back. Back to that exact area. If you can, do some more video, do some more photos, find out the exact area.
What's missing so many times is the follow-up. And people, I mean, I don't expect your average Joe Witness to go to follow-up, but we have so many Bigfoot. Again, hashtag stop the lunacy. If you're behind a movement and you post something about Bigfoot, use that hashtag stop the lunacy. It's really important as researchers that if we get something, to go back the next day, to take measurements. the amount of pictures I see without somebody using a tape measure, you know, oh, they pull out a dollar bill. I want to see a tape measure.
Yeah.
I want, you know, come on. These are the basics. And you can always tell the real folks versus the folks that are pandering to a YouTube crowd, pandering to a Facebook Live crowd, that they have no follow-up. You know, in your toolkit, you should have, I have something called the Keeson rod, Keson. It's made by the Keeson company. I'm not sure if it's a corporation or whatever, but I got that many years ago. And it's a tool private investigators use in accident investigation. And it has very clear, distinct numbers. So when you take a picture of something, you can very clearly see this. And they're not that expensive. They're under $20. And the nice thing about that is it pulls out and you can actually stand it up and use that to sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. We got 3 more new comments. You know, it's just common sense. The problem is, and there's another group which I'll be talking about in future weeks, that this guy is trying to tell everybody, well, if you haven't had 25 sightings, you know, Chris is stretching. It's okay. If you haven't had 25 sightings, then you have nothing to say. And that's his comment. Well, prove to me, Buster, that you, not Bigfoot Buster, but this guy, prove to me, buddy, that you've had 25 sightings. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what I call. You know, anybody, you know, and that's the divine arrogance. You'll see people that placate to that. They have that arrogance about them. Well, if you haven't had 25 sightings, then you don't have anything to say to me. You know what I call bullshit? I call bullshit. If you've had one sighting, you have something to say.
Yeah.
You know, even if you haven't had a sighting, you have something to say. Because you know what? This isn't a proven creature yet. All right? It's not. There are no experts amongst ourselves. And this is the other beef I have, and I'll talk about this briefly too, is people get all bent out of the shape about experts. Oh, well, sit in a newspaper, they're called an expert. Oh, an expert. Well, what is the definition of expert? The expert is a person who has expertise in a particular topic. And it's a frame of reference. When I talk to a bunch of people off the street, like I did at the Franklin Alley Social Club, and I want to throw a shout out to them, as I did this past week, I had 128 people out there, most of which have never been in the woods looking for a Sasquatch, and they're coming here to get information and to learn more. To them, I am an expert because I have done that. An expert is a frame of reference. Chris, if you go to the library and talk to a bunch of citizens, you're the expert.
Oh, no.
Expert is a frame of reference. Yeah. Now, amongst ourselves, on this radio show, or a TV show now, I'm just a colleague. I'm just a person who's had a lot of experiences, but I'm a colleague. I'm not an expert to you. I'm not an expert to anybody else that considers themselves a researcher. I'm a colleague.
That's exactly why that me and you get along so good, Steve, because neither one of us are what people would say self-proclaimed experts.
Right.
No.
Right.
I'll never admit, even if I was an expert on something, I would never admit to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and the ones who can freaking talk to them, know their names, and isn't that the truth? That's the other one. They, you know, people who give people name that they name their Bigfoots. Oh, I'm talking to Charlie. I'm talking to Fox. I'm talking to Zorth, the Xenu people and stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, let's be real about this. Okay, if you see a Bigfoot out in the yard and you have a habituation, a legitimate one, it's okay to give it a nickname. Well, I call that one Charlie because I'm seeing it all. Hey, you going, Charlie? Just like you would maybe like a like a bear that comes around that rummages through your garbage. You know, you might give him a name. You know, and that I get that's okay. But when you start talking to them and naming them, and they're knocking on your door asking for garlic, I got issues with that. That is also part of hashtag Stop the Lunacy.
If you're on a basis with them that you know, you're borrowing garlic from each other, I mean, you know, you should be on a first name basis. Should be.
Well, you should. You know, stop the lunacy. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because another thing that really gets my craw is the stick structures and people, you know, taking a picture of an X in the forest. Well, what's that supposed to be? You know, are you saying did you see Bigfoot do that? Did you see a Sasquatch do that? But one of the things people ask me too is, you know, hey, Steve, what do you think about when you have some free time? And unfortunately, when I ran this video, we didn't have sound. We were having technical issues with our first show. This is what Steve thinks about.
I wonder what kind of shampoo Bigfoot uses. I mean, does he use head and shoulders, back and face, and ass, breast, neck, chest area? Oh, very interesting. I wonder what Sasquatch's favorite cartoon would be. Would it be Hanna-Barbera's Great Ape? I mean, it's big like a Sasquatch, but it is purple. After all, it's a great ape. And what does Sasquatch do for fun? I mean, they play Chuck the Woodchuck? I don't know. So many things. So many considerations to think about.
That's what I do on my off time. That's what I think about. What does Bigfoot do?
Definitely, his favorite cartoon would definitely be Great Ape. It has to be Great Ape.
Well, somebody had made mention. How about Captain Caveman?
Oh, possible. Yeah.
I remember when I first posted that, somebody had made mention of Captain Caveman. But what does a Sasquatch do? And again, a lot of people have been picking up the book. I now have it available on Kindle as well. Primate behavior is key to these things, and you know, you know, that's why the whole people that talk to Bigfoot every day and all that stuff, it just doesn't fit. And like I say, keep an open mind. Tenet number one. Tenet number two, keeping an open mind doesn't mean relinquishing yourself to fantasy. And that's what a lot of folks have done. You know, people ask me all the time about you at the UFO connection. Your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, yeah, there is none. That's all I can say about it. There's no connection between Bigfoots and UFO.
Yep.
If they were an advanced species with advanced technology, they would have bombed us out of existence long ago.
Yep. And now we have a question that covers Chris Bennett's face right up.
Good, thank you, B.
But the question is, Steve and Chris, what do you think about people who follow these hoaxers and encourage them in their nonsense, agreeing that the blobs and pixels, not pickles, pixels are all real Bigfoot and all going along with all their outrageous claims? Well, the way I kind of look at it is stop the lunacy. They're the same people who will these are probably the same people who believe in every single conspiracy theory that we didn't land on the moon, or, you know, what other crazy things?
George Bush blew up the buildings in New York. You know.
Yeah, the 9/11 truthers. You know, there are probably people that believe and you know what? Listen to Coast to Coast AM. Listen to Ground Zero Radio. And I love those shows, don't get me wrong. But there's some people that will call up and say some of the zaniest things. Right. Zaniest things. And Bigfoot Buster says mental illness attracts mental illness. Well, or gullible. It attracts the gullible. Or it attracts the weak. Certainly one of the best case studies of cult followings, and that's what really these people are about, is cult followings. Is you know, one of them is Jim Jones, and he got a lot of people, you know, to follow him. But who were those people? They had a lot of disadvantages in their life. They were economically disadvantaged. They were socially disadvantaged. They were maybe relationship status disadvantaged. And throughout all those, that's how he was able to bring them into the fold. So all you need is one of these. All you need is one of these, and you're in the fold now.
Yeah. Yeah. People, you know,
and Ryan Reading, here's Ryan Reading's comment. In 2016, I encountered a multitude of Bigfoot and other things. I myself mixed the paranormal with Bigfoot. It took me a few years after experiencing what I did to understand the difference. I was duped. Thank you, Ryan. Yep, and I'm glad. I am so glad that I could help Ryan kind of on that journey of getting out of that frame of mind. And I hope I did. And I hope, Ryan, you're doing okay, buddy. I know you've been through a really rough 2019, and I hope everything's okay with you, brother. And look forward to seeing you at the Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Conference, October 11th and 12th in Chautauqua Lake. Camp Onyasa in DeWittville, New York is where the lectures will be. And the Bigfoot movie night on Friday night. So it should be a fun time. So I'm mind you, I'm getting my shameless plugs in there. The whole crux of the matter really is the really whole crux of the matter is that these folks build up these social media followings, but how much outside attention do they get? You know, I always say this, that there's a couple of different schools of thought. Number one, these guys make us look really bad. Number two, and this is kind of my school of thought, and it's been that way, is that they make us folks that are on the level look really good. And that's one way to look at it. When, you know, that's right. And you know, Bigfoot Busters Matt Johnson has some followers, and with his degree in psychology, he's aware he can manipulate.
You know, when we're talking about followers, there's always a small percentage of the people who want to believe something so bad, they'll latch on to anything to reinforce that belief that they have. Well, even smaller portion of the population of people who want to take advantage of that.
Right. And that's what happens. These people feel like there's something lost in their and this is a good comment. People get sucked in. Yeah. People feel like there's something missing in their life. Yeah. So what do? They gravitate to something that'll make them feel special.
Right.
Well, the whole thing about that is you don't need to go with these woo masters or these hoax masters to feel special. All you have to do is join one of, you know, a bunch of real groups that are doing the real work, and most of them are not putting their stuff out on Facebook every day. It comes very sporadically. That's the ones you want to pay attention to. It's not the ones who post every day, because for some reason, and this is the big difference to tell the real folks from the phony folks, is that This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. You don't need to put stuff out every day. Every day. But you need to put stuff out when it comes, and you need to do your due diligence and good analysis. And that is so crucial and so essential. The Vermont Trail Cam video, the whole Vermont Trail Cam thing. You know what? We have time tonight, since Dee isn't here. We have time tonight. Give me a second, and I'm going to show you what analysis really is. I just have to get into my files here.
We'll step over the refrigerator for a second, stretch my leg for a minute.
Okay, so we're going to show this video. This is what real research is. Now, if you want to subscribe to the Vermont Trail Cam Photo is a Bigfoot, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But I want to show, if you have a different opinion, that's okay. See, this is what real researchers do. They don't get personal about it. But I'm going to show you something, and this usually is shown on my lectures. So you guys are going to get to see something tonight that normally only people who go to my lectures see. And I think it's really a good time. It's about 5 minutes long. You're going to enjoy it. This is what a real investigation is. When I got that trail cam picture, it didn't come out the next day. It didn't come out the next week. It didn't even come out the next month. When you get something that is that important, you need to work it, and you need to work it good. So here's the video. We'll watch it now. There we go.
In February of 2011, I was shown a trail cam photo by an old friend of mine. This trail cam photo would change my thoughts on exactly how good of a trail cam photo one could get involving these creatures. Most trail cam photos I've seen in the past have been blurry, blown out, or in some cases just a plain old blob and indistinguishable from everything else. This picture, however, changed everything in my mind.
Well, on my property, I have an apple tree that was loaded with apples. And the year 2011, I mean, I had so many apples on that tree, it was just unbelievable. And coming in and out of my yard, I always look at the tree. And one day I came in the yard and I look in one area of the tree, there was like a 5-foot section completely devoured of all the apples. And I said, gee whiz, what the heck ate all those apples, you know? So when I got my wife, Nancy, I said, come on out with me. I want to show you something. She come out, we looked at the apple tree. I said, look at that. I said, what do you think that happened? And she said, well, oh, the deer were hungry. I said, well, I don't think it was a deer. I think maybe a bear or something. And she said, well, why don't you set up your camera, my game camera? I said, yeah, you're right. I said, gee whiz. So I set up my game camera and I left it up for 7 days and 7 nights. And the first pictures that we got were of daytime pictures. They came out very clear. They were of crows eating the apples. Now the night pictures were of, there was three or four pictures of a coyote eating the apples. And the last picture of the coyote, it was in a submissive posture. It had its back all humped up, its tail between its legs, and it wanted to get out of there. So that told me something scared it and it wanted to get out of there real quick. And the very next picture that we got was of this creature. Really a sportsman paradise back there. We have deer, bear. We've even had moose come in here. But as far as a Sasquatch, we've had 2 good reports right in my area. Matter of fact, Lake Bombazine is right down the road from me, maybe a mile. And a woman reported to me that she noticed that when her husband and her were out on the boat, they'd seen a hairy 6 or 7 foot creature at the edge of the water. And when they got near it, it turned and walked back into the woods. And a third of a mile, or not even a third of a mile, I'd say 3/10 of a mile up from my house, there's another pond. And a friend of mine was coming down. Matter of fact, he's a local contractor. I know him very well. And he was coming down there in the afternoon. It was about 3 in the afternoon. And he was coming down with his truck. And at the edge of the water, he said he saw this creature bending over into the water. He doesn't know whether it was eating the weeds, pulling the weeds up, or drinking water.
The Vermont Trail Cam photo posed a lot of serious challenges for analysis. First, the time and date were wrong on the camera. By analyzing the camera, it had revealed that the picture was actually taken at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning on September 1st. We also noted that the temperature was off by about 7 degrees. Second, we established a scaling of what the creature's exact size was. Third, we established that the picture was not likely a person in a ghillie suit, as it was not hunting season, plus Frank's property is very well marked and posted. Finally, it did not look like a man in a suit. Lastly, we had to tackle the issue of, is it something in front of the camera, such as a bird or a leaf or something? Well, to that, we enlisted the help of Dr. Bruce Maccabee, renowned physicist and optics scientist for the federal government for over 30 years.
If this had been some object, let's say flying past the camera, now if it were flying past the camera, you'd expect the blur to be in the left-right direction, not in the up-down direction. So right off the bat, the hypothesis that something flew past the camera, going from right to left or left to right, has a problem. That hypothesis has a problem. That the smear of the creature, the image smear of the creature, is vertical rather than horizontal. But let's assume for a moment now that there was something going from left to right across the camera. A distance of 4 feet from the camera. This is 1/4 of the distance out to where the creature was, at about 16 feet. Then that would make a shadow, I calculated a shadow about 3/4 of a foot wide, which would be extremely obvious around the edge of the border of the creature, if it were there. As I said, the actual shadow is very thin, almost wiped out by the blur of the creature's motion itself. So that tells me that whatever was blocking the camera, whatever was blocking the light from the camera hitting the distant surface, which would be the ground, whatever that was close to the ground and not near the camera. The bottom line is, it appears to me that the shadow width, which is very small, argues against something being close to the camera, like a bird or an owl, or covers a large area in the photograph. It's well up above what we would call a photographic noise level. There's definitely really something out there. Say it's either a hoax or a real thing.
So there you have it. And Paul, I disagree with you 1,000% on that. Number one, the scientist basically said it couldn't be an owl because of the shadowing of it. And listen, I've looked at probably several hundred trail cam photos prior to this. Had this thing been any close to the camera, number one, there would have been some IR blowout, and there wasn't. In fact, I even reflected more IR blowout, just like a flash would, than what this thing did. So I respectfully disagree with you there.
You can use the general shape and perceive it's in an owl shape. You can
absolutely.
Owl there.
It's pareidolia on the other side of the fence there.
Right. Yeah. But when you look back at okay, well, now we got to face the reality of light and shadow.
Right.
If that's been an owl close to the camera, there would have been a big shadow cast.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what me too. First, I was thinking, it's probably an owl. Then I started, oh, wait a minute, that's not a bird.
It's too close. Now, if you go to the archive page on SquatchDetective.com, I actually blew up where what I believe is the hand going down. You can actually see the dark of the item behind the blades of grass.
Right.
So you can actually see the blades of grass sticking up like this, and the darker figure going behind it. And thank you, B. B actually said, I always thought it was a bird until now. And that is what people don't understand. Common sense would tell us that, yeah, this is a bird. That was the first thing. We take a look at every single aspect. We explored first the bird aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I was, hey, if Maccabee turned around and said, hey, I'm sorry, I think it could be a bird, then okay, it goes into the pile. But he said something completely to the contrary. Now, that being said, I did have a little photographic knowledge and realized that the shadowing was wrong for something to be close to the camera. And then when I looked at it with the blades of grass, like I explained, that also kind of told me that, hey, we're looking at something here that's on the ground. If you look, and Sonia, I'll get to your comment in a second. Where was I? Being there. By being there, it's a completely different perspective. When you look at the photo and look where the photo is, how the photo is sitting, and where the camera was, you can clearly see that this was something further back from where the camera actually was.
Outline right on the ground behind it. So,
right. Now the next issue we had, and this will kind of go directly. So once we overcame the owl thing, because truthfully, once that idea is put out there, and actually Frank actually did that himself. He said, well, the biologist said it's an owl. He looked at it for a second and threw it back at him. He didn't really look at the picture in detail. So Pareidolia takes over and says, well, yeah, I could see this, I could see that. If I pull up, let me see if I can't get to the, oops. Hang on, we'll get to it. If I pull up, let me go back. Okay. Oops. Sorry, folks. We're trying to adjust this. Okay, there we are. So if I look at this and say that's an owl, and I'm glad my cursor is over there so people can see. All right, I understand. There's a tail, there's a wing, there's a head, there's a wing. But I'm having a lot of issues seeing that as feathers, number one. Number two, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You know, what is all that noise there? If it was an owl, this would not be there. What is that, an owl's trunk?
It's an elephant owl, Steve.
Right, yeah, that's so. And how can I recreate the exact conditions? It's very simple, Paul. What we did is we set the trail camera up on the same tree, and we took a series of different pictures. And believe it or not, that comparison picture that I took, and I got to try to scroll the video to where the analysis portion here. There it is. If you look, you can clearly see that I am in the same position as this. And how did I explain? And that is correct. It's in motion. That is true. But the motion is up, down. It's not flying away. It's not. But there's actually two series of motions going on. And if you notice that the other thing is kind of still, this noise in the one arm right here is actually very still. There's very little blur on that one. This seems to be bending over, grabbing something. But nonetheless, to say, you don't need to recreate the motions per se. What we need to do is recreate the shadowing. and recreate the distance for perspective. And as you can see, we have that perspective here. And in fact, if you look, there's actually, and mind you that this was in the fall or late summer, and this was in the spring. So because with the snow on the ground, we couldn't really recreate it effectively. So there is some differences in the tree. But really what you're looking at is something that is on the ground. And if I can pull it up, I will for you all to see. And we're going to get to the whole guy in the hoodie or something like that. We'll get right over to this. There we are. What I like about this show is I can do stuff like that. Let me just do this show. Okay, so watch this. There we go. So we're going to move this over here. So what you're noticing is the darkening. Here's the grass in this picture. There's the grass, and you can actually see darkness behind the grass, between the grass. So that was another thing that kind of told us, and you could actually see that in the photo. But I took the negative shot of it and put it up there, the enhanced. So here what I'll do is I'll just pull this over here, and these are just some of the investigation photos. This one was taken just a few weeks after the alleged thing. That's not me. That's another researcher. Not quite scaled as or angled quite correctly, but it was there, and we ended up taking about a series of 30 pictures just to get everything right and in the right frame. We also did weather data. But you see, my point being is this is the kind of research you need to do when investigating these things. And then, of course, we have Dr. McAbee's statement and some other things we have questions about. Now, as far as the question of it being a guy in a hoodie, that video clearly showed that we had somebody in a ghillie suit, and we took. By that time, the original camera actually broke; it didn't work anymore. But we went back a year later, and another group came in, and they provided that picture. They took a picture of a guy in a ghillie suit, and you can clearly see the hooding and the brakes in it. But the other thing is that this is Frank's, leading up to Frank's front yard. This side is the road, and this side is to the house. So number one, why would a guy in a ghillie suit be running out there, cutting on property that basically has signs that, if I can get this up, I'm looking at the wrong cursor. Hang on. That has signs such as shot, 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 and these are like 20 feet away from where that picture was taken.
Not with the coyote running away, and then the creature in the shot compared.
Well, one of the things I will point out is that Frank, older guy, not necessarily, and good question, B. I'll get to that question too. Frank really wasn't great, but there had been a period of time that had passed after that coyote took it. These weren't shots. The coyote shots were one group, and then there was a period of time that had passed, and then there was this other shot.
Okay.
So this was the last shot on the film. But if you go here, and I'm trying to find that little area.
Yeah.
It's pretty right in here. Here we are.
Right.
Okay. The neat thing is where Frank is there. This whole area down in here, something very large had went down through there. That was very apparent and very clear to me, because a lot of the brush in there was broken, like something had actually
Right.
went in through there. And Paul, that is not a blob squatch. It's not. That's not a blob. Sorry, disagree. A blob squatch, unfortunately, is something more like what Chris has. No offense, Chris. That's just, it's some kind of animal. The bottom line, Paul. You can tell it's an animal. It's not a stump. It's not a tree. It's not a blob. So don't get your bunch in the britches. It's not a blob squatch. It's actually, and the arguments I put forward that it's a real Sasquatch are a lot better than some of the other people that are putting up. And the fact is that, and this is what people fail to understand, they don't want to listen to the scientist.
Yeah.
Paul, you're not listening to the scientist. He says it can't be an owl. And he's an optic scientist.
It's all about the shadow.
Well, okay, hold on. It does not show a Sasquatch. How do you know? Then what is it? If you don't know what it is, then it may be a Sasquatch. And that's probably a better way to word it. Could be a Sasquatch. And that's the way I feel about it. This, to me, I think it's a Sasquatch. Can't prove it. There's no face shot. I think it is. Could be wrong, but I think I'm right because I did my homework on it. Now, may it show a Sasquatch? Yes. May it show something else? Yes. No, what actually the scientist said at the end was this is either a hoax or the real thing. Right. And I'll even play that. If you listen.
Close to the camera, like a bird or an owl, or there's covers a large area in the photograph. It's well up above what we would call a photographic noise level. There's definitely really something out there. So it's either a hoax or a real thing.
And there you have it. So he says it's either a hoax or a real thing. And frankly, I know Frank, he's an old guy and he's not inclined to necessarily do anything hinky, and he wouldn't have the ability to do that, truthfully. But this is, so let's see. Brian, did I find any tracks? Well, again, at the time, this was in September. By the time I got on scene, it had already been April. But here's the thing people forget. There was a sighting less than a quarter of a mile from Frank's property the year prior. Thank you, Paul. It does show something. And as long as it shows something, it's not a blob squatch.
Right.
Right? So there's a sighting a year prior, not even a quarter mile up the road, on the other side of the road. It's a very remote rural area. So you have that. A year later, there was a sighting a mile away in Hubbard in Vermont. And I actually interviewed the two kids that were spot on. One was age 12. The other one, I think, was either 9 or 10. They were spot on about what they had seen. Separated them. They each had the same story. There has been a plethora of sightings in that area. So we have the historical data. But you see, as researchers, we tend to be our worst known enemies at times too. Because there's times we need to be critical, but there's times we can be overly critical. Like not once, so, well, why, it's got to be an owl. Well, explain to me why a scientist says it's not. Explain to me why it defies physics, optics physics.
Yeah.
That picture. Because I know I've gotten plenty of trail cam pictures. Plenty of trail cam pictures. Hello, Patrick. Plenty of trail cam pictures that have this white thing in it. Seen a few of them, quite a few. Or a leaf falling and it catches the IR and I think I caught a ghost, or I think I caught, whatever, this UFO or whatever, and it turns out that's something really close. There is, especially on the you see you don't see that horrible glare that you see when something's right up against the camera.
Yeah.
And you're right, Paul. You're absolutely right. There has to be dialogue. And this is the way we do it. So at least I got you thinking a little bit more than the owl theory. And that's the purpose of this. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. That's the way we should act.
Well, you know, I was skeptical too, Steve. And when
I was too.
The first thing that popped in my mind was, this is an owl. And then I got to looking at it. And then after we spoke with Dr. McAbee, I started looking at it from a scientific standpoint. Okay, we have something filmed here. If it's an owl and it's near the camera, where's the big shadow? It's not there.
Right. That's something I noticed almost immediately. I mean, I took it, I looked at it, I kind of shrugged it off. The next day I was on a plane to Scotland for the truth behind the Loch Ness Monster. And here I am supposed to be boning up on Loch Ness history, and I'm looking at this picture. And then I started seeing all these things. Like, what is that? Oh, is that a trunk? You know, somebody made, well, that's an owl attacking a coyote. But if you go to the web page, I've made a comparison to the coyote. The coyotes are tiny compared to this.
Oh, if the coyote got a hold of that, that's going to be his chicken dinner.
Right. And where the camera is, you got to understand, the camera sat up a little bit. The grade goes uphill a little bit. So the camera is actually sitting above the area. It's probably only about 4 feet on the tree, but the tree sits about maybe, this is just from recollection, maybe about 5.5 feet from where it was. And the camera itself was probably a good 10 feet to 15 feet away from this target object. So it just made no sense. So once we did that, we started looking at the ghillie suit idea. Could it be a guy in a ghillie suit? Well, with all those trespassing signs up, and this is something a lot of people don't know about Frank. A year before, or a couple of years before, Frank came home and found a burglar in his house. In his house. What did he do? Frank carries. Frank pulled out his gun, held the burglar at gunpoint till the police arrived. He's a pistol-packing senior citizen. Don't mess with him.
Frank's serious, yeah.
Right. So, now, what causes the white splotches? That has been a very interesting question. Right? Is it vitiligo? That had been tossed around, which is common in primates. That's where you have the patches of white that go down to the cellular level, where the skin cells lose their pigment. That was a possibility. There is also a possibility that they may be dark spots, not light spots, because something I have found, including the pictures I took in the comparison pictures, I noticed that my camo was actually reversed, which was dark was light and which was light was dark. So IR has that ability to do that. We could actually be looking at dark spots, and they're so dark that they're reflecting back. So not sure. Frank likes to state that perhaps it was moonlight shining through, because that daytime picture shows, sunlight showing on the researcher's back. See, that's probably moonlight. That's what it was. But in looking at the moon phase for the correct day, there was a new moon, so there was no moon out that night. Right. So that's ruled out. So that is some of the. But this is the type of things and how to break down pictures. And if you don't have the story behind it and the information behind it, you cannot ever analyze a picture unless it's so obvious. And let's face it, the Memorial Day footage, there was one that was analyzed and you had a story and it seemed like good until a few years later when the audio came out, and that kind of put the whole thing into a different perspective. So, so that's the kind of research. That is what it takes to do the job. It took 3 months to come out and get everything put together into a package to where we could go out and say, hey, listen, this is what we think. You know, and that's what researchers need to be doing on their own stuff. Is why put it out today? Why put it out tomorrow? Why not go back, take pictures, do a little research, do some test shots, do whatever? But too often, and again, John is correct. This area is close to Whitehall. It's within 16 miles of Whitehall. So very, very, very good. Of course, we talked about the white splotches. And Ron says, I'm wrong. I'm Paul. I'm your worst critic. And Ron came back and said, that's because I owe you money, Ron. So that is what you need to do. And yes, don't ever ignore lung infection, Bigfoot Busters. And if you need to get the pneumonia shot, get it, because that'll save your butt from lung infections turning into pneumonia a lot of times. So that's what needs to be done. And hopefully this will kind of shed some light on folks, at least on how I'm doing stuff. That's how we progress. There is so much. And what I love about this format is that we can share a lot of this now. Like, this is something I couldn't share on the radio show. So it's what I love about this format. And just the fact that we're getting people talking and going. I mean, it's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. You know, so it's just one of those things. Now, we've been back to the area on several occasions. Did a couple of night ops too, and nothing. We actually found a mink running around, and it was kind of funny because Frank was getting angry because the minks were destroying stuff, and he actually shot one. And that night we had went there, and we had the night vision equipment out, and all of a sudden everybody starts going, hey, there's something in the tree, something in the tree. We can see eye shine coming in the tree, and I'm looking at it with my naked eye going, yeah, I seem a little small, a little narrow, you know, a little close together. Get the night vision out, it's another mink. So I was like, hey, Frank, guess what? You didn't get all the minks.
He's got enough minks to make him a new coat out of.
Yeah, or at least a sweater, you know. But just like I said, it's so amazing, that area, and it's so full of wilderness, and Bigfoot reports all the time coming out of there. So is what it is. You know what, Chris, too, is something I'm going to announce here on the show. But we'll do it with a video real quick. Let's see if I have the yeah. Here we go. Coming up very soon on Squatch-D TV. And there we have it. We will be doing the Bigfoot cold case live here on Squatch-D TV. We're going to get the date straightened out for that, and we'll be talking about The Creature, a book written in 1976 under the pseudonym of Jan Clement. So I have broken that code, who Jan Clement really is. And I know Warren Coleman had been trying for years to figure it out, and he doesn't realize, I think, how close he came. But thanks to being a sorry, I'm having a little trouble with them. Little tricky thing. Thanks to the wonderful ability to be a private investigator, I was able to get a lot more records and a lot more digging deep into the identity of Jan Clement. Well, Bigfoot Busters asked, is that a documentary? It was planning on it, but I actually turned it into a very powerful PowerPoint. And we will be doing the PowerPoint. And the beautiful thing about this format is I can do the PowerPoint and talk about it. And we'll be talking about the book and reading some passages from the book and breaking down the investigation piece by piece and bringing it to you live here on Squatch-D TV. So excited about that. Really excited. And I actually have done that presentation once, and that was at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure back at the end of May of this year. So it did come out in the spring of 2019. So a lot of fun, a lot of stuff. We're going to go over some portions of the book, talk about some things, talk about, does that sound like it could happen or not? And we'll have a nice open forum on that with questions as we proceed through this investigation. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it. So we always have stuff to do. That's what I love this format. Did I say that?
Oh, yeah.
Did I say that, Chris? I love this format? I haven't said that enough. So, and man, we're rocking. We can rock a show without a guest, and that's what I love about the format. You know, is it true or is it fantasy? We're going to find out. And B, I am so sorry about your husband. So my condolences, and everybody keep healthy out there, please. Yep. Paul asked, spring 2019, we're already in the summer. Yeah, that trailer was a long time ago. That trailer actually was made in 2018. And yeah, I did get it out there by 2019. I was planning on doing a documentary, but sometimes things happen, and for the sake of time, I decided just to do it as one of my part of my lecture series, depending on where I'm at. So, like if I'm with a bunch of Bigfoot researchers, that's a great presentation. If I'm with a bunch of people that are, you know, like the other day when I went to the Franklin Alley Social Club, another shout out. Yeah, that they wouldn't kind of make that connection. So that is a, well, it's about damn time you showed up. So
yeah, also, it's a little difficult to put the video on the old block top.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it'd be really hard to do a presentation, because what I like about this format, folks, is that I can screencast. So when we have guests on, I'd love to come to Alabama. I haven't been to Alabama since 2008. So I'd love to come back to Alabama. I was down in the Dothan area, right out near the Florida Panhandle. Really squatchy out there. I love it. We have the ability to do that. We're also going to do my lecture series on primate behavior too eventually, when we don't have a guest. So we have all these little filler things to go on. And hopefully next week our guest will be on. This is 2 weeks in a row now we've had issues with getting guests on. We had one lined up for you tonight, but unfortunately he got tied up at work. So he was going to try to get on with his phone. That must have not worked out like he wanted to. But we'll have him on another night, and that's okay. I think we've had a wonderful show tonight, just you and me, Chris. So that's the awesome thing. So
not Kentucky and the recent sighting thing, you know, that brought up, you know, that freed us up a little bit to talk about some things we never talked about before.
Yep, and I can't stress that. You know, I want to try to see if I can clean that video up a little bit, see what we can come at. If we can furnish, you know, at least extract something out of it. We'll also be talking, I think, at another time. You know, well, here's another. You know what? Why don't we do this? Because we still got a good 20 minutes left or so, and I'm sure we got people. We got people out here, so. Let's take a look at another investigation. One of my let's see if I have this here. I do. I'm just not sure which one to run. All right. Let's take a look at this one, folks. For folks who doesn't remember, this was another investigation that went to me first. And this is an oldie but goodie, and this one, again, has a lot of questions to be asked, and common sense. Really, you know, hopefully I can get this one to play on this. So this is probably going to be the clearest video you've seen of it. So here it is. Oops. All right, it's opening. Let's see if it works. Nope, that one doesn't work. So what we'll do this one. Yeah, this is a pretty good copy.
Are we filming now?
We're filming.
Okay, over here.
It's natural.
Why natural? I have something to say, God damn it. You want to act natural? I got something to say.
He's got a microphone in his hand.
I got something to say. I got a microphone.
Yeah, Paul, because we're all interested.
I don't want to close up. Say that's good enough. I just want to say that this is the Limbo Lake campgrounds, and this is the camping time of the can. We came here to camp, and Kenny's main objective is to burn cans. And if you notice within the fire, and Doug, please get a shot of this.
There you go.
Can with one can in there. I want you to look at this, because when we leave, ladies and gentlemen, when we leave here, we hope to have many cans melted in here. And this is the beginning. This is the Friday night. It's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we hope to have many, and as the cans melt, our fun will increase. So this is the Limbo Lake campgrounds, number one night. Beginning the first can, and with the first can, we will burn many more, and may we burn many more in years to come.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Here.
There.
As
There's
we
gonna be
pan
two of
over,
these
you can
cans
see
full.
Kenny. He's going to
Two
start
cans.
babbling a little bit as well.
Okay, here's Paul's summation. And unfortunately, Paul, I'm going to prove you wrong right now. And you're going to be looking at this in a whole new light. Because, again, let's look very closely at the beginning of this. And let's see. First of all, let's keep these people quiet for a second. So if we look at this video from the very beginning, and I can do this, okay? I want you to focus right there, folks. Right there. And now we move this a couple of frames, and it moves, and it moves, and it moves. And at that point, right there, something hops off that. There it is. There's the jump. There's the little fella right there. It's horrible, I know. It couldn't be taken. But as we pan up, and as we go, okay, so let's go back right here. Well, you know what? Let's just go to the enhanced video. If I can get my cursor over to my screen. So here's the part of the enhance. This is enhance number 2. Watch right before it drops. And I may have to switch tactics here a little bit because my earphones are starting to go dead.
I already see the movement. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, because my...
Yeah.
There it goes, hand over hand into the tree. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it's right. I'm trying to pick up right there. Right there. It's going into the tree, hand over hand. What it's going to do, it's going to swing back and forth a couple of times.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the swings. There's a swing and a drop. And then from there, it drops down. So no way this can be, it would get stuck. As we can see, it's going to come from there over to there and then drop.
That's interesting.
So absolutely, it's definitely, I'm trying to get to the right folder. Unfortunately, there we are. So here's a closer view. But what everybody fails to see is the big one right there. You'll see it right over there. It's going to wire. This is over there. Jumps off the back. That one continues, but then turns on and goes back.
Yeah.
And I've looked at this film frame by frame by frame. And just to show you how intense it is. I have something like 348 frames of this video. So every frame, I've gone over every single frame of this video. If you actually look at my frame list, there it is. So yeah, it's every single frame was, including that stupid campfire. But that's what needs to be done in a lot of these.
What gets me, I've looked through this frame by frame, Steve, like
yep.
The big one puts the small one in the tree, and then it walks away. And isn't there some frames where the big one walks back to the tree and the small one comes down, or does it cut off?
It never jumps down. The camera pans out to the music festival, which is going on across the way. Now, number one, somebody asked, pet monkey. Well, number one, I actually spoke to the landowner, and guess what? They didn't allow, they would not allow any pets or anything of any kind because they weren't rated for that insurance. Right. So any animal was discarded. New York State, it's illegal to own a primate unless you're a zookeeper. And fact number 3, which is the common sense thing. Again, we're going back to common sense, like that can't be a guy in a ghillie suit. It wasn't hunting season. It wasn't carrying a gun. It's a front yard. It's clearly marked trespassing. Well, in this case, okay, so you can't own a primate in New York. They weren't letting him in, but let's just say the guy snuck one in. Would you let your pet monkey just climb up in a tree and go ahead and play?
No.
And the object that's in the background is pretty dark and seems to be one color. You know, it's not wearing a bright colored shirt or a different color pair of pants. It all seems to be a uniform color. So, no, kites weren't flown during the festival, actually. And if you watch the film frame by frame, you actually see something jump off the back of the taller one And eventually, as the camera comes back, you see it hand over hand
Yeah, it
going
goes
down into the tree, and then it swings once, and then it drops.
Yep.
So to me, the big question is this either a monkey? It didn't seem to be an inanimate object. Number one, we don't see a kite flying in the road or flying in the air. We don't see a kite anywhere. We only start seeing this, and it's amazing the jump off the back, and then you see it hand over hand and then across the tree. We can break this down another day a little more in depth, but could it be a pet monkey? So the answer to that is you got to forget pet monkey. It makes no sense.
Thing be, you know, and I was highly skeptical. I try to be skeptical of all this stuff, and I was thinking, okay, some guy with a pet monkey. That's got to be it. That's got to be the answer. And then I started looking for the monkey's tail, and there is none.
Right.
Monkey theory out of the water. The kite thing, you know, I saw that, and it does. You know, you can see an appearance. The movement would be like a kite.
But that's all. But that's only when it's swinging in the tree.
Right. Exactly.
If you start looking at the minutia of it, how it got to the tree, you can clearly see hand over hand into that tree, and it blew my mind because the guy who found the film didn't even know he filmed it. It sat from 1997 till 2002 when he was looking at these videos, and then his fiance said, "What's that?" And my gosh, he didn't even see the big one in it.
Yeah.
So just another conundrum. Is it Bigfoot? Clearly, we can't prove it's a Bigfoot. Could it be? Yeah, it could be a baby one. I remember Bobby Short. Asking me, well, what makes you think that a baby Bigfoot would climb a tree or play in a tree? But as primates, we all do that. And even talking with Dr. Meldrum, when we're young, we're exploring what these do and what our feet do, and we climb. That's why we have monkey bars in parks. It's because we like climbing things. That's how we learn. But as we get older, we get heavier, we get less dexterous, so we tend to become down to the ground. But even baby gorillas will climb trees. So, and that area, I haven't heard much in that area, but pretty close by, there's been some sightings in Plattekill. And the area is abundant. Like the trees back in there was an apple orchard at the time. Now the whole area is overrun and overgrown, and there is very, very little food source. Well, actually, I'm sorry. There's plenty of food source back there. Wild strawberries, wild blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and these apple trees. Of course, it's all overgrown. Nobody's tended to this place in a long time. But the food source is there. The water was there. Lembo Lake, the lake you saw, if you caught the music festival was across the way. And no, it's not really a great area to fly kites in because it's very hilly and it's got a lot of trees in it too. Well, so
that's what got me about the kite. If it was a kite, why would the guy take and put his kite in a tree?
Well, why would a guy be flying a kite at 8:45 at night?
At night, yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Common sense. They're not going to fly a kite at night. You can't see the damn thing.
I would get away from the trees personally if I was going to fly one. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So it just, you know, nobody saw nothing. That was the amazing thing. We didn't see a thing. Do primates nest in trees when the sun sets? And do primates nest in trees when the sun sets? And not necessarily gorillas, and I don't think chimps do that too much either. It depends on where they are, I suppose. But monkeys will, lemurs will, I think orangutans will occasionally. I mean, primates are skittish like that. They have their own culture. People don't understand that chimpanzees have their own culture, and culture is just learning different traits from one group to another. That's the definition of culture. So you know, there are some chimpanzees that know to use sticks to get termites. There's other ones. Now there's an orangutan that was seen using a spear trying to catch a fish, or using a stick to catch a fish by spearing it. So again, there's culture amongst the groups. It's what they're taught. So I think really where they would necessarily sleep at night would probably be a cultural thing. If they're in a forested area, they may take to the trees, or they may lay on the ground, depending on their preference. Yeah. But gorillas are pretty much ground dwellers. Right. Sasquatch, I'm pretty sure because of their weight, they'll be ground dwellers, because obviously if you have a 600-pound and 500-pound animal trying to climb a tree, I know in earlier days people trying to estimate these things at 1,200 pounds, 1,500 pounds. No, I think they're more like 6, 5, 6, 700, 4, anywhere from 4 to 700. Otherwise they'd be a really portly Sasquatch. Who knows with the Paul Freeman video, that how much that sucker weighed if you subscribe to that video. But yeah, I think baboons do go in trees at night, and then you'll see it. You like go to the zoo, and a lot of those, even the chimps, they like climbing up in the trees, and just they're climbing up in the higher elevations to watch everything. That's just having advantage of sight. But anyway, we are getting close to the end of the show. We've looked at a lot of different things today. It has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun tonight, folks. And I want to thank everybody for actually sticking in there with us tonight. Awesome show. I think we finally got some of the tech glitches out of the way. As you can see, tonight we've run really a pretty good ship. So I'm really stoked. I wish we could have had a guest on, but hey, that's what it's about.
My headphone fixed up for next time.
That's right. Duct tape. Use duct tape, Chris. That'll work all the time.
Yeah.
Or if you need to, just a personal note here. I have a lot of crazy things on my desk, and one of the things is, I don't know, Chris, have you ever seen that movie Office Space?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember our good.
The guy with the stapler?
The guy with the stapler, right? Now, Swingline never made red staplers up until that movie.
I can't remember what exact model it was. It was a special model or something. No, that's it. That's it.
That's the exact one. I have a red Swingline. I saw it, and I said, I got to get it. So I have a red Swingline. It's a damn good stapler. So nobody better take it. Otherwise, you have my stapler? So anyway, I want to wish everybody a great week. We'll be back next week with Squatch-D TV, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. If I get the banner up, there it is. I don't know what happened to the banner with everything. But anyway, where to watch the show, Facebook.com/Steve.Kulls, Kulls. Twitter.com/Squatch-DET, or YouTube.com/Steve Kulls. And like I said, we'll propagate these around the web tomorrow or later on this evening. But a hell of a good time. I want to wish everybody, again, Chris, thanks for your input tonight, and just keep us posted on what's going on there in good old Kentucky. And
an ear open, and we'll see what we can find out.
Yep. And on behalf of everybody here, again, prayers going out to El Paso, Texas, and to the location in Ohio, which just broke, I think, this morning. But anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy, great week. Keep healthy, folks. And most of all, God bless, and keep on squatching. We'll catch you all next week. And there's our first glitch because I clicked on the wrong file. Where'd it go? Well, oh, there it is.